Thanks for having me, Chris.
Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, joins me now. I want to play something that Senator Richard Blumenthal said about this today. Take a listen to what he had to say.
These tweets, adding to each other, amount to evidence of criminal intent. There is now, right now, a clearly credible case of obstruction of justice against the President of the United States.
There is right now a clearly credible case of obstruction of justice against the President of the United States. Do you agree?
Yes. I think it's a pattern of behavior. Rarely in these sort of prosecutions do you have one big bombshell act. Typically, especially post-Enron, when we beefed up the laws allowing for this sort of prosecution, they understood that it was going to be a pattern of behavior, actions, activities. Clearly, the president, not just in his tweets, but, you know, the talk of pardons of people like who are on trial right now, implying that if they didn't go along and cooperate with the investigation, they could possibly be pardoned. I think the sheriff's pardon in Arizona was a clear intent to tell other folks that you don't have to abide by lawful subpoenas. So it's a concern there. But obviously, add the other things to it, firing Comey, asking for his loyalty, threatening to fire Mueller previous times. You put all that together, I think we've already met the burden. Unfortunately, this investigation is going to take much longer. We need to be patient.
You know, there's two ways, I think, of looking at these president statements. One is a sort of like frog boiling in the water, right, where he's testing his limits. The other is that it's a sign of how impotent he is. That this is someone who's whining because he knows that he can't actually take the steps to fire Rosenstein or Mueller because that would be a kind of political cataclysm.
I think the legal term is he's actually freaking out, right? His campaign chairman is on trial. His national security advisor has already pled guilty and is cooperating. And his personal attorney, the person who was so important, why? Why do we know Cohen was important? Because President Trump thought he was important. He gave him, as you know, his most sensitive task. And right now there's a possibility, a very real possibility, that he's going to follow Flynn and cooperate.
You know, you're on the House Intelligence Committee, and you guys had the investigation that was, I think, I'll editorialize, prematurely cut short by the majority. There was reports issued on both sides. Is it your sense, I mean, I always think to myself, do people on Capitol Hill feel confident they know what the president did come out? And are they walking around, if you're on the Republican side, with a sort of sword of Damocles over your head?
I think some of my Republican colleagues wish it would go away. I think they're sort of repulsed by the president's activities. I think others are co-conspirators in a sense, including many of my colleagues and the chairman of the Intel Committee. What exactly did they do? They tanked the investigation and they shut it down. They worked hand in glove with the President of the United States to obstruct this investigation.
Do you think that is going to, when you guys get back from recess in the fall, and it will be within months of the midterms, do you expect more pressure on that front?
It depends entirely upon what Mr. Mueller does in August. I can't, as you say, we look at this investigation through a straw. I think the Mueller investigation has been very careful about leaks, and they've been very careful to stay away from our investigation and vice versa. But knowing the type of person he is, my assumption is if he doesn't do something pretty soon, he's probably going to put off anything until after the election.
Because of that sort of window of interfering with the election.
What we learned from Comey all too well before the presidential election in 2016.
You're back in your district now.
Yes.
You guys are on recess. And I just wonder what your conversations on this topic are back in the district, or whether it comes up.
It comes up all the time. I get stopped in coffee shops, riding my bike, walking my dog. Most people say, please continue this, find some way to find out what took place. It is clearly on people's minds. Being on programs like this, remind them that I'm on the Intel Committee, and all I can tell them is we're doing the very best we can, given the fact that the Republicans shut down their side of the investigation. I think most people recognize for what it is. This is more important than Watergate and more complicated.
More important? Why is it more important than Watergate?
Because it involves a foreign adversary, a very real possibility that our president conspired with them to attack our democratic
You assess that as a very real possibility?
I do.